You're live here on the air. Peter Frampton, Kiss, Cinderella, Nelson. What do all these bands have in common? That's coming on next. Subscribe, hit that bell to be reminded when we're coming on. Let me introduce the next guest that's coming on here. Legendary manager for legendary bands, Mr. Larry Mazer. Welcome, Larry. How you doing, my friend?
Steve, how are you? I'm good.
I'm doing good. You know, I'm glad that you're here. A wonderful introduction for a friend. I got to give him a big shout out for introducing me to you, Mr. Bruce Kulick. So thank you, Bruce, for this one. And Larry, where do we begin with you? The legacy of Larry Mazer, where it all started. You're managing bands. You worked with bands Cinderella, Nelson, Kiss, currently Buckcherry. Take us back to the beginning, Larry.
The beginning. Okay, well, the beginning, like most people of my generation, started on February 9th, 1964 with the Beatles and Ed Sullivan, which completely changed my life as well as everybody I knew.
Set my timeline for me. Cinderella. Nelson comes into play after that, after Cinderella?
Okay, so Cinderella's first record came out in 86. Long Cold Winter came out in 88. And then 89 is when Gene and Paul called me about interested in me managing Kiss. And then in 90, I opened an LA office to go with my East Coast office. And one of the women who I hired to work there was very friendly with the Nelson brothers and said they were looking for a manager. They were unhappy. They had management. They were unhappy. They were getting jerked around by Geffen Records on making their record. And they sent me, I heard the record and I flipped out and I picked them up in 90. And that's when the record came out. And their first single went to #1, Love and Effect.
Yeah, I remember it very well.
So it was boom, 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 one right after the other. And then, I got Thunder. I got a couple bands signed quickly. Black Eyed Susan from Philadelphia,
yes,
who had been in Brittany Fox, got them signed. A group from New York called Company of Wolves, got them signed. And then, like I said, picked up Peter Frampton at the same time. And we were cooking pretty good.
Peter Frampton, that's an interesting one. Him coming into your world.
I want you. Show me the way.
So I said about how I had seen the Beatles and decided I wanted to be in the music business. But Peter Frampton took it to the next level because on November, you'll notice I have a photographic memory for dates in my career. Which
I love it, yeah.
But on November 26, 1969, I went to a club called the Electric Factory, which was the big club here in Philadelphia, to see Chicago Transit Authority, who I had loved their music from their first album. And the opening act was a group called Humble Pie. Of which Peter was the guitar player. And I was blown away. And that's when I said, 100%, this is what my life is. When I see a band like that, I am dedicating my entire life to being a manager. And fast forward to 1986, I'm managing Steve Morse from the Dixie Dregs. And he was an instrumental artist mainly, as the Dregs were. But we decided for his second record to have vocals. And we talked about different people to co-write with and to sing with, and he mentioned Peter Frampton. And Peter at that time had been on Atlantic, and we got a hold of him, and Steve and he wrote a song together called Stand Up.
Stand up and say what you want to say.
Which became the title track of the record, but Atlantic blocked Peter from singing on the record. They allowed the song to be used, but for whatever reason, they blocked him being the vocalist. So instead, we got a guy named Alex Litterwood, who was Santana's lead singer, to be the singer. But then later on that year, Steve got offered a chance to do a night of guitars at Carnegie Hall with Larry Coryell and a bunch of famous guitar players. And he asked Peter to play with him. And it was a thrill. I got to meet Peter officially for the first time. It was a thrill of my life, and it was a great night. And then when I opened my LA office in 1990, the woman who I hired to run her name was Anita Camerata. She gets a call from a lawyer, John Branco, who is still is the biggest LA lawyer in the business. He has Michael Jackson, a lot of big acts. And he said, Peter Frampton's looking for a manager. Would you guys be interested? And I immediately said 100% yes, and flew out the next day. And we agreed to work together. So that was a pure passion thing for me, because he was an artist that just defined my career at the time. So it it wasn't as strange as you might think it was. So,
Yeah, no, he's one of those guys, which, I go back in time because Peter Frampton, for everybody watching out there, I'm and you, and Frampton Comes Alive. I mean, these are great records, but also one of my favorite records, which a lot of people might disagree out there, but I don't care. I loved him with the Bee Gees, Sergeant Pepper. I thought the
yeah,
album was great.
I wouldn't say that too loud, but okay.
I know. Okay, well, Peter's watching.
How do I feel by the end of the day?
But I just got to be honest. I thought it was a great record. Let's go. So now you got Buckcherry. They're out playing. Everybody who's watching this, go check them out. I'm going to put the links for Buckcherry's music in here. So if you haven't got it, I want you guys to click on the link below and we'll support it. Support good rock and roll, because Josh is one of the last great frontmen out there.
Absolutely.
And the guy takes care of himself. He's together and he is focused, man. That's it.
Yes,
And I've witnessed that myself. So Josh, if you're watching, I support the team Buckcherry right there.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So now we go back. You got Kiss without the makeup.
Right.
How did you end up getting into the Kiss world? First of all, like how did?
When the first record came out in '73. I was working, like I said, I was in college. I was working for this promoter. The record came in because back then promoters were sent records, everything. And I was a huge Alice Cooper fan. So when I saw the cover, I said, oh, absolute natural progression, next step after Alice Cooper. Bought every record when it came out, loved it to death, and always was a fan. And like I said, in 1990, they both called me and said, we're looking for a manager. We have this record, it's finished, called Hot in the Shade. But we need somebody, and you're obviously got a lot of clout at Mercury Records with Cinderella. Would you be interested? I went to New York the next day. They had an office in New York City, the Kiss Company, and I had a meeting, and I said, I told them all the things I thought were wrong, mainly that Gene Simmons had dropped out of being an active member of Kiss during the non-makeup years.
Wow.
Literally did not have one song on the radio that featured Gene's vocals versus Paul. And I said, that's got to change. But the record was done. But there was a ballad on there called Forever that Paul had written with Michael Bolton. And I was able to get it be their second biggest single after Beth. Beth went to 6. Forever went to number 8. And we did a tour that was phenomenal. The show was spectacular, built upon the Pyramid, which was the cover of the album, the Sphinx, I'm sorry, which was the front cover of the album. And the tour was phenomenal. And then when it came time for the next record, we got back with Bob Ezrin, who had produced the Destroyer record. And Gene had toughened up his image and had done a song called Unholy, which I demanded be the first single, which Paul was not happy about. But I said, look, the public wants the demon back in the mix. We got to go this way. And it started the record off on a good way, having Gene being back as an equal member of Kiss. So
your legacy with Kiss, it started before
Hot
in the Shade. That was Eric Carr.
Right. Hot in the Shade, Revenge. And then I did Kiss Alive 3. And then I parted ways with them in 1994 when they decided to do a tribute record to themselves called Kiss My Ass, and that's when it fell apart.
Kiss My Ass. Was that the one with Lenny Kravitz on it?
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember that. So you didn't want the tribute record to go down. That was it.
From the day I got involved in 1989, promoters would call every day when they put the makeup on, when they put a makeup on. So there was a track on the record called Rise to It.
Mm-hmm.
And I came up with an idea for a video. I said, you know what? Let's shut these people up. And I got them to put the makeup on in the video. Bruce Kulick and Eric Carr, obviously not being original members, they wore the outfits, but they sat with their back to the camera, so you didn't see their faces. But it was Gene and Paul in full makeup. And we did the video, and it was not a successful video. And it sort of said to me, there you go. That was yesterday, and let's move forward creatively with new music. Ironically, 5 years later, they did put the makeup back on, but that video, which you can still see on YouTube for Rise to It, was sort of an homage to the makeup years. But That's
Yeah.
not what I wanted to do. I wanted to keep making great music, which I think we did on the Revenge record, of making a great Kiss album. So
Revenge was a great record,
great
and
album.
it still is, and a lot of fans out there
Ranked,
love.
ranked in their top. The most Kiss fans rank it right behind Destroyer and Love Gun as the greatest Kiss album of all time.
Yeah. How about relationship with Eric Carr? What type of guy was Eric Carr like?
Well, it's funny because I got to. There's a guy who does a podcast out,
Mhm.
and funny enough, he emailed last night saying that Loretta Carr, Eric's singer, wants to talk to me. I don't know why, but she does. But this is an interesting one in a way because. So they asked me to manage them, and they said you've got to call. I already was friendly with Bruce. I knew Bruce from before, so I already had a relation with him. But they said, look, you've got to call Eric Carr and introduce yourself. And it was funny at the time. In retrospect, it probably wasn't funny. But the first thing I said to him was, Eric, I hate drum solos. And so right away, there was this weirdness between us. But I really did. I just thought every hair band did the same, drum solo. Nobody, it was like the same thing. It was enough already. To me, it was when people went to go take a piss. It was when the drum solo came. So we had a weird beginning over time, and he was treated kind of weird by those guys, and so I didn't really get that close to him at all. He then, funnily enough, he came to when Nelson played the Beacon Theater. He came to the show, and we hung out for a while. But I never really got close to him. And then, unfortunately, he got sick, and then he passed away. I went to the funeral, but and I was asked about a month ago. A friend of mine in Baltimore, David Snowden, is doing an Eric Carr film, and asked me to participate. And I said I bowed out of it. Maybe that's why Loretta wants to talk to me and asked me to be in it. But I turned it down because I said, look, I wasn't that close to him, and and again, I don't want the story to be that I told him I hated drum solos. So I said, please don't include me. But so I was very sad when he passed away, but really didn't affect me like it would have been if it had been Bruce or Gene and Paul, who I was close to.
Yeah.
Ironically, I had tried to manage Badlands, which was Eric's band before Kiss. And so Eric and I really knew each other. So when Eric became the drummer, it was like we already were friends. And so we became very close during the Kiss years. And,
So Eric Singer, you knew him way
from when he was in Badlands,
which was a great, excellent band out there.
Yeah.
Ray Gillen, another guy with a strong presence like a Josh Todd.
Who unfortunately died of AIDS. Yeah.
He died of AIDS. Yeah, he died of AIDS. And that guy would walk into a room, and Larry, correct me.
Incredible looking guy.
He'd
not a
light up
great
the room.
singer, but not a great singer. Good,
See?
solid singer, but not a guy that you turn on the radio and go, that's Ray Gillen, But handsome, yeah. I mean, definitely when you walked into a room,
Do you think Badlands would have been if he didn't pass away? You think it would have took the world over by storm?
Well, he passed away after they broke. They were already over. If you remember, he had after Badlands. He then joined Black Sabbath for a little.
That's
bit.
right. I totally forgot. You're
But
totally
no,
right.
Badlands was already in the rearview mirror by the time he passed away. So no,
It's great. It's what went wrong. What Badlands was
they didn't
such
have great songs. It wasn't
just-
great songs. You
that's
need
it.
great songs. They didn't have great songs.
They didn't have it, huh?
No.
They had the look. It was more the look, and they had the
Yeah.
guys in the band that were talented, but just didn't take to the next part, I guess, huh? On that.
Songs weren't there.
So when Eric Singer entered Kiss, and now you know this guy, and you could just he's a very humorous guy.
Oh, hilarious.
Did he fit right in, right out the gate? 'Cause-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, he had played. Paul Stanley had done a solo tour, and Eric had played drums on that. That's how he became on the radar. So he already had a relationship with Paul. But yes, I mean, fit right in. He sang. He played amazing drums. He looked great, blonde, long hair, and it was great. It was
which is so odd for Kiss, because now you got your first blonde guy coming in there. Was there any talk about Eric? You got to dye the hair black? No, right out the gate.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. It was like
he was great. It was great. And that Revenge tour is phenomenal.
You know what's funny about Eric Carr, Eric Singer, and Peter all have almost the same vocal range, if you notice that, without trying to. They have that raspy rock and roll 70s tone voice, each of them, which they all sing great together on that part. So then what about on tour, like Gene, like first of all, that tour, and for people out there, What was missing on that stage, Larry? If you looked at in the audience, what you
Which
would
one?
not
Revenge
see
or On the Shade?
it was Honda Shade. What would you not see? You would not see the Kiss logo. It was.
On purpose, totally on purpose.
Tell me that story now, because that was
Well,
not there.
look, the key with Kiss is always the centerpiece, and the centerpiece was always the Kiss sign. But we had this incredible image of this Sphinx, so it was so obvious that should be the centerpiece. But for those who went to the show or have seen the videos on YouTube, the end of the show was the Sphinx blows up, collapses into the stage, and out from the ashes coming up is the Kiss sign. So it revealed itself for the encore, and I thought it was much dramatic. And then we kept it on the next tour also, because the Revenge tour, the backdrop was the Statue of Liberty, and then halfway through it exploded, and it became the Terminator with a middle finger up. And that was the next tour where the Kiss sign didn't come up at all. And the Revenge tour didn't have the Kiss sign at all. But yeah, I mean, it was like, been there, done that. Let's not just do the same thing over and over again. So to me, it was like, you've now hired me. Now we're going to do the Larry Mazer way, which is something different. So we did.
The Larry Mazer way. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. The Larry. What about Gene with sticking his tongue out? Because I've seen stories about this.
All right. Well,
let's hear this.
So again, at the very first meeting, I made this whole thing, and I focused mostly on Gene at the meeting, and I said, look, you got to get back in the band. During that period, he had gone into movies. He was managing Liza Minnelli. He had Simmons records. So I said, look, for me to do this, that's got to stop. No more Simmons records. No more Liza Minnelli. And then for last, I said, and you got to stop with the tongue. I said, it's one thing with makeup on, but without the makeup on, you look silly. And you got to stop with the tongue. And Paul and I, funnily enough, had this little fine. We never did it, but we had this thing that we're going to fine him $1 every time he stuck his tongue out. And we were fining him $1 for sticking his tongue out. But yeah, that was another condition, was enough with the tongue. I mean, when you're wearing the demon makeup, okay, but now you're in your 40s. I mean, stop already with the tongue. So, but now the makeup's back on. If you watch videos now, the tongue's out the whole show. But
But how do you talk to him? This is what I got to know. How does Larry Mazer approach a guy like Gene Simmons?
What are you gonna do? Now they won't hire me. So what?
It's like.
I mean, listen. There's not a band I've managed that I go in and tell them what. I mean, again, luckily, listen. I've never been money focused. I've made good money, but that's not been my thing. I want to work with great artists making great art. So money's not my thing. So I go in. I tell them who I am, what I am. They either buy it or they don't buy it. I mean, there's been a number of acts I've gone after that didn't buy what I was selling, in which case, God bless them. None of them have been successful, by the way, but that's beside the point. But, I went into that meeting saying, look, you called me. I didn't call you. You called me. So obviously you like what I did with Cinderella. You feel I'm a creative guy. Here's what I see. And I will tell you, and I've said this in every book I've been interviewed for and every TV show, out of all the bands I've managed in 50 years, the most fun I've ever had was managing Kiss. I laughed every single day. Something made me laugh. I loved every second of it. And more importantly, they never said no to one idea in 5 years. Never once did they say no. When I said, let's go out and do a club tour, we had we were going to do the Hot in the Shade tour in Europe. I said, let's go do a club tour. We played the Troubadour. 425 seats. We had a line a mile long on Santa Monica Boulevard, got on the evening news, the whole thing. They said yes. We played the Ritz in New York. I mean, the Troc here in Philadelphia, 1,000 seats. When I said when we did the DVD, I said, we're going to go and do signings in amphitheaters. And we just came in these amphitheaters, sat at a table and just signed for like 3 hours. They said yes. And, different ideas I had for songs in the set. I said to them, let's do I Was Made for Love. And you're like, that killed us. No. It'll be cool now, because to me, what once was uncool circles around at a certain point and becomes cool at a certain point. And we put this great light show around it with pyro and all kinds of special effects. It tore the place apart, and it's been in their set ever since. But that was a song that I said, you got to do I Was Made for Loving You again. But they said yes to everything. I loved every minute of it up until the time we parted. But that meeting, I went in and I had a plan, and either they said yes will do it, or no, they wouldn't. If they didn't, God bless. I was doing well with Cinderella. I wasn't worried about my next meal by any stretch. So luckily they said, we get it.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if Paul was, 1,000% excited that I'm focused on Gene, but Kiss was made up of two distinct images, the Star Child and the Demon. And to me, that's what was missing in the non-makeup years up until Hot in the Shade, was the Demon had disappeared and needed to be brought back. And I think I did that. And I think that's besides getting their first top 10 single of Forever and having two amazing shows with Revenge and Hot in the Shade, I think my greatest accomplishment was getting Gene Simmons back in Kiss. And I take pride in that. To me, that was what was missing from the band. That I was a fan from the first album. So having owned every Kiss album, good, bad, and ugly, including The Elder, whatever, I knew what was missing. And what was missing was Gene Simmons.
Let me ask you, Larry, while I got you here.
Yeah.
Give me, if you can, okay?
Right.
You don't have, and you could plead the fifth, whatever I ask, plead the fifth, okay? Top 5 must-have Kiss albums.
Revenge, for me, is number 1. Destroyer, Love Gun. I think the first one just could set the tone. And then obviously the obvious one would be the first Kiss Alive record.
The first Kiss Alive one.
Because that's really what broke them, was the Kiss Alive record. So, but you got to say the first one because it introduced me to the band. Destroyer is always number 1 to everybody. Love Gun, produced by Eddie Kramer, I love, and my record Revenge, I think is right up there. So those would be, I guess, a lot of people say Rock and Roll Over, but I like the 5 I just named as my personal favorite.
Okay, that's good, fair enough. That's a good one. Yeah. Number 1, the Revenge, which I'm sure a lot of people out there. To you, I'm sure a lot of people out there would agree too.
I think most people would say Destroyer, and I'd probably still say Destroyer number 1, but Revenge, because I was there from beginning to end. That to me is a statement record, and it brought Gene back, and that to me is an important record.
Yeah. So when you parted with Kiss, and I know business is business, but you had a lot of fun with them. You laughed, the jokes, because hanging out with Gene's a very funny guy, as we all know. He could be. The humor is great. How did you feel that part? Not the business, but I feel a little in the heart now. Did anything hit you like I'm going to miss this, or walking away?
Yeah, listen, again, I don't want to get into the details of it, but it was very upsetting because I thought I did a great job, and it was over economics, which a lot is what most management relationships end over economics. It was an economic thing that I just couldn't accept. And I said, well, I can't do it. And, of course it hurt me. And, and to this day, I'm very upset by it because I do love what we accomplished. Now, having said that, I would not have done this path. I mean, to me, my frustration is that I think another album with Bob Ezrin and me, I think their next album, the path that they were on with Revenge, the songwriting, and Bruce Kulick's a big part of this, the songwriting on Revenge, to me, was ready to go to I think their next album would have been, quote, their Sgt. Pepper, for lack of a better example. If they had kept the team of Larry Mazer, Bob Ezrin, and them, and Bruce involved heavily in the writing, I think the next album would have been their Sgt. Pepper record. Instead, they did the worst thing they could do, and I'm not talking about the tribute record, which was stupid, but the worst thing they could do is they fell into, grunge is big, so let's do that. And they did this horrible album called Carnival of Souls that Mercury rejected, put it out later as the lost great Kiss record. But they hired Toby Wright, who had done Alice in Chains, to produce, and Toby's a great producer, but not the right guy for Kiss. And they made a horrible record. And that, to me, they weren't managed. They didn't have a manager at that point. They did it themselves.
Oh, wow.
And they just chased a trend rather than doing what to me should have been the next step, which would have been take Revenge, and now let's really write another 10 great songs. Bob Ezrin producing, Larry Mazer managing, and let's go to the next level. But c'est la vie.
Yeah, c'est la vie.
But yeah, I mean, do I miss it? I miss it because they're rock stars, and I love working with rock stars, and they still are to this day rock stars.
What would you like your legacy to be remembered working with Kiss?
That I brought Gene Simmons back in the band.
Okay. That's it. The man who brought the demon back.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank Larry Mazer for coming on today's show, sharing some time with us. And also, please check out Buckcherry. All links are down below. And also, please don't forget one thing, people, to subscribe. If you like this channel, right there, hit that little guy, hit the bell to be notified when we're coming on. Until then, everybody, we love you, baby. We do. See you all later.